Salutations and welcome, friends, to another one of our spotlight series here on Trust the Profits as we are going through all of the main contenders and, quite frankly, not even the main contenders, just everybody in the Kentucky Derby here with their own individual video. Joining me today is my colleague here on Trust the Profits, the Formula. Formula, how you doing today? And are you ready to talk about one of the more intriguing horses I feel like in this field, Confidence Game?
Yeah. If you remove all the horses that ship in from Japan, this is the most mysterious of the horses that are left, right?
I totally agree with you. It's so funny you say that because I was thinking about kind of introing with that sentiment as well. And I feel
Yeah,
like in some
yeah,
ways we almost know more about the Japanese horses than we do Confidence Game. And
yeah,
just to have people kind of, understand where we're coming from with this, the last time we saw Confidence Game was at Oaklawn Park in
yeah.
the Rebel Stakes. And that was on February 25th. It is
Yes.
now, as we record this, it is April 24th. It has been nearly 2 months, and we have not seen him on the track in a race since then. This is an extremely unusual route that trainer Keith DeSormo, I should say, has taken with Confidence Game. What are your thoughts on this idea of just skipping the last round of preps? And do you think Confidence Game is going to be ready for the Kentucky Derby, quite frankly?
I mean, it all depends on what's going on behind the scenes and what we're not being told. It's
Mhm.
83 days between the Rebel Stakes and the Kentucky Derby. When I normally handicap and I take a look at distance between specific races, right?
Mhm.
You know, there's like a sweet spot, right? Where we're looking at about, 20 to 50 days is probably about most people's sweet spot. This is 80 some. If it were any other race, I wouldn't put a negative next to it.
Mhm.
83 days. That doesn't really throw too much of a red flag for me. If we start getting into triple digits, if we start talking about a year,
Yeah.
right? Then you start to think, okay, how rusty is this horse? Why haven't we seen this horse running recently? Um, I want to see another race from this horse before I start thinking about tagging him as a winner. Um, 80 doesn't look so bad, but the only problem is this is the Kentucky Derby, and every other horse is meticulously planned out to what stakes races they're going to be racing up ahead of this race. So it's just sort of weird because at one point we were even thinking, Confidence Game might go into Lexington just to ensure that he would make it into the Derby. Like he might
Yeah.
not get enough points. The whole planning around Confidence Game just seems a little bizarre to me.
It does. And we should say trainer Keith Sormo seemed to have had this plan from the get go, which is even, I think, equally as interesting that
Right.
shortly after he won the Rebel Stakes,
Yeah.
DeSormo came out and said, well, maybe we go to the Bluegrass, maybe we go to the Lexington, maybe we just skip them all and go straight to the Derby. And it was kind of this like, okay, that's unusual. And just to give
Yeah.
people a sense of this, it's hard to really say, well, it's a losing angle because it's just not an angle that anybody has played. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's so rare that I can't sit here and go, well, this is a losing perspective because nobody ever tries this. So
Yeah.
it's not as if for instance, with the UAE Derby winner is 0 for 18 in the Kentucky Derby. Okay, that's a statistic I can go back to and go, okay, that's a troubling angle if you're going to support Derma Sotogake or some of these Japanese
Yeah.
horses.
Yeah.
But with this, there's just so few cases that it's hard to find a comp.
Yeah.
And we should say, you mentioned what's going on behind the scenes. One of the things that we all got treated to last week was Confidence Game skips to Lexington. What does he do? He has an 8 furlong workout at Churchill Downs and goes a mile in a minute and 38 and 2. And I mean, again, you never seen 8 furlong workout. I mean, Bob Baffert usually pushes his horses with like 6 furlong work sometimes,
Yeah, and
sometimes
that's
7.
substantial.
And,
Yeah.
and yeah, and so it's just so interesting to see the works that are going on. And now we've not seen him since that workout. So I just so
Yeah.
much intrigue and mysteriousness about Confidence Game. But I'm interested going back to your notes on the Rebel
Yeah.
formula. What were your thoughts on Confidence Game as a racehorse? And we've talked about all the drama kind of around him, but what are your thoughts on him once he is on the track and running?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. When I was capping him for the Rebel, I did cross him off a little bit. I put him down below a number of horses, and the reason is because when I look at the list of horses that he beat, Red Route One, Verifying, Reincarnate, he beat two horses that are actually in the Derby as of right now. So
Mm-hmm.
it was an impressive win.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it coming from behind. He was, in fifth place for most of the race, and then actually ended up taking the lead towards the end. had a pretty impressive victory in that race. I think he won by 4 lengths, was it? Over those, or maybe I'm thinking of a different race here.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, he had a pretty impressive win. Oh, beating Red Route 1 by 1 length. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it was a lengthy race. I thought
yeah,
he stretched out nicely. I was ready to see more from him. He was making it up on our list, and then he sort of started falling down just due to inactivity. And
yeah,
it's yeah. Part of me is even thinking, okay, maybe DeSormo's playing some 4D chess here. It's like when you talk
yeah.
about professional drafts, right? The NFL draft, the
Right.
NHL draft. Someone goes off the board and drafts someone, a running back, third overall. You
Yeah.
think to yourself, it's not the norm because we're told that this is the norm. You got to have, like, 30 days or so before the Derby. That has to be your last race so
Right.
that the horses get that perfect window. Maybe he's just trying to keep the horse very well rested and
Yeah.
thinking that the freshest legs are going to come out at that 10 furlong race. And, we're going to see an amazing race from Confidence Game. It's interesting. Maybe he did a 8 furlong workout just to keep him fresh. And he's like, that's going to be his race. He's just going to stretch it out a little bit. I don't know.
I think
It's different.
yeah, it is. It is different, and quite frankly, I'm just intrigued to see how this horse fires come
Yeah.
Kentucky Derby
Yeah.
Day. But you mentioned in the Oaklawn and the Rebel, he did sit, and I think that was one of the reasons that I
Yeah.
was a little hesitant to embrace him in that Rebel, because
Yeah.
prior to that, he was a horse that if he was not on the lead, he
Oh, right.
really didn't get the job done, and he was a horse that when he got on the lead, he would wire the field a lot of times. But he showed a new dimension in that Rebel Stakes, sitting, like you said, fifth, well off the pace,
Yeah.
was sitting wide actually most of that entire trip, and really seemed to like the muddy conditions, not surprising from Candy Ride. But
Yeah.
is also a horse that can handle all the distance. Dam from Bernardini. I mean, he should be able to go the 10 furlongs, no problem, for a
Oh,
mile and a
yeah.
quarter. So, I think that added dimension of him sitting off the pace is going to be quite critical, because I don't think he's fast enough in this particular field to get onto the lead. We should mention he is the only horse, I believe, in this entire field that has 2 wins over the Churchill Downs surface. So he clearly likes Churchill Downs as a
Yeah.
track, and that's something that obviously was an angle that a lot of people looked at in retrospect last year with Rich Strike breaking his maiden at Churchill Downs, and clearly liking that dirt surface, which is a little unusual and a little bit different from some of the others. Six
Yeah.
for seven in his career in the exacta, 3 wins. I mean, he hasn't done a lot wrong in that regard,
Right.
but but we still kind of come back to this point of like, so where's he been, and and what's
Yeah.
going on?
And I think if he would have come out and showed us something in Lecomte, it may have made more sense. You would have said, "Oh, yeah, he got first or second in Lecomte, looked good there, really challenged Instant Coffee."
Yeah,
He got third in that race, and he was 7 lengths behind
yeah,
Instant Coffee in that race. Instant Coffee being a horse that, by the way, did not qualify for the Derby because he didn't show up well after that. So
right.
that's another shade to this as well, is that he's only really shown us once in a grade 2 stakes race that he can perform.
Yeah,
There's still some unknowns. Even look back to Churchill Downs, the Iroquois. There he is on the board there, finishing fifth.
yeah,
Granted, it's 2022, but we're
yeah.
really basing a lot off of that one race and some experience at Churchill Downs.
Yeah.
It's a little scary.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. But as a result, you're going to get a huge price, I have a feeling, on Confidence Games. So,
Yeah, I think so.
he's a horse that I think normally you would say, let's say he runs in the Rebel, he wins the Rebel, obviously. Let's say he goes and runs the Arkansas Derby. Let's just
Oh, yeah,
hypothetically say that.
yeah,
And let's say he finishes third in the Arkansas
yeah,
Derby, or second. He probably is going to go off at like 15-1, because people are going to look at it and go, well, he won the Rebel. He hit the board at the Arkansas Derby.
yeah,
This is a pretty serious horse that we probably have to take into some consideration. Now, I mean, he's going to be 30-1 or higher, I would imagine, because people are just going to see that break in absence and just toss. So I think you're going to get a big price on him, and he might be worth a shot at a big price.
absolutely. I mean, he's definitely, as we said, he's the unknown, but he's an unknown who's got victories in his name.
Right.
Last race was a victory. People will jump on that, right? And
Yeah.
and and who knows?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But an intriguing horse for sure, and
Yeah,
one that I can't wait to see the trip that he ends up having, and I can't wait to see obviously how he continues to work in the weeks leading up to the Kentucky Derby. And
yeah,
I'm sure there's going to be all sorts of reports, all sorts of unidentified sources. Like you said, it's like the NFL draft, all sorts of people
right.
whispering about what's going on in the barns. And Keith DeSormo, like you said, might be
4D
crazy like a
chess.
fox. Yeah, 40
Yeah,
chess. And might be playing chess when the rest of us are playing checkers. So
yeah. He's trying to moneyball the system. Exactly.
exactly. So well, Fliz Formula, thanks so much for hanging out with me on this spotlight preview of the confidence game. And make sure to like and subscribe to the Trust the Profits here. And until next time, it's now post time.